This is NBR Today. The founder of Orion Health has sought to have his software company delisted from the NZX with a proposal to acquire the rest of its shares and take it private. In documents disclosed to the NZX today, Ian McCrae notified the company of a takeover offer for the 14.4% of Orion shares he doesn't already own, alongside a lock-up agreement with several shareholders, rendering the takeover a done deal. Grafton Health Holdings, associated with Mr McCrae, and director Michael Falconer, filed the takeover notice yesterday. The Orion board is now considering the terms and will appoint an independent advisor to report on the merits of the offer. Under the terms of the lock-up, several shareholders have agreed to accept the proposed offer, taking Mr McCrae's stake to 93.5%. A holding of more than 90% allows the compulsory acquisition of all remaining shares. The unemployment rate rose to 4.3% in the December quarter, indicating a turn in the labour market because of a slowing in the number of jobs filled compared with the increased population. The increase was not unexpected, but an unusual feature in the unemployment spike was that the rate for men rose to 4.4%, up from 3.9%, higher than for women at 4.2%, up from 4%. And this was the first time in more than 8 years that the rate was lower for women than men. The number of unemployed rose 10,000 to 120,000. Wage rates, including overtime, rose 1.9% over the year, the same as the Consumer Price Index over the same period. Pushpay Holdings has lifted quarterly revenue 35% and expects to hit full-year revenue targets. The company's third quarter results show revenue of $27.7 million for the 3 months to December the 31st, within their forecasted growth rate. Chief Executive Chris Heaslip says full-year revenue is likely to be at the bottom to midpoint of that range, as donations in December were impacted by the US government shutdown. The mobile payments provider anticipates gross margin percentage will increase to over 60% for the year to March 31st. NBR's Calida Stewart-Menteith spoke to Mr Heaslip about what next for Pushpay.
What we believe is we've got to succeed in the core vertical first. Given it's such a large opportunity, $130 billion donated just to churches each year, and we have still only 4 or 5% of that market in terms of, we're processing about $5 billion now of the $130 billion. So this is still a very, very, very big opportunity, and we want to make sure that we continue to succeed there first before, kind of branching out into other opportunities.
The coalition government's tax take continues to do marginally better than forecast, but, like other investors, it's also being negatively affected by market volatility. In the 6 months to the end of December, the operating balance before gains and losses recorded a surplus of $1.1 billion. That's $300 million better than the forecast in the half-yearly update. But when investment gains and losses are taken into account, the numbers are less positive. When net losses of $6.8 billion are added, the surplus turns into a deficit of $5.8 billion, $6.2 billion less than the forecast surplus. The Treasury says net investment losses of $3.1 billion were mainly due to falling market prices and from foreign currency exchange losses. Finance Minister Grant Robertson says the latest accounts show the government is on track to meet its budget responsibility rule of cutting net debt to 20% of GDP within 5 years of taking office. The Council of Trade Unions has dismissed suggestions employers should be able to opt out of industry-wide fair pay agreements. Its president, Richard Wagstaff, says there would be no point to fair pay agreements if employers could choose to be part of them or not. Business New Zealand Chief Executive Kirk Hope disagrees, as forcing employers to be part of fair pay agreements, which set minimum standards of wages and conditions, isn't consistent with International Labour Organization conventions. Employers complain that fair pay agreements will restrict firms' flexibility, and Mr Hope believes higher wages won't necessarily help lift productivity.
I'm not sure that lifting wages would ultimately create a more productive environment. I think you have to start with skills and training, productivity, and then get to pay, because that's the reflection of the productivity, I think.
To tomorrow, and in Hunter's Corner this week, Tim Hunter takes aim at casino operator SkyCity's use of normalised earnings over real earnings. So for more on that and other stories, please do head to our website and have a great evening.
To unlock your 2 free articles a week, head to nbr.co.nz.